I am committed. I am confident enough to tell a seller they will make more money selling it to me, one of my students, or somebody on my team, than they will selling it traditionally. Today we're going to be underwriting a deal that I purchased from one of our students, Mr. Bobby Hernandez. Thank you for bringing me the deal. Thank you for selling me the deal. But I want to make this video for somebody, whether it be a seller, whether it be an agent, whether it be somebody that wants to learn how to do these deals, whether it's somebody that's just getting started or start investing and know how subject to works. So let's jump right into it. You and another mentee, you and another student of ours, Elise, shout out to Elise. She found this house. Let's start from, and I want to make sure that you guys understand that I'm going to walk you through every step, and I want to answer every question that somebody might know, whether it be a seller, whether it be an investor, whether it be a whoever it is, understands how this deal was purchased and how we were able to create a win-win-win-win-win situation for everybody involved in the transaction. So property here in El Paso, Texas. What's the property address? Do you know off the top of your head?
Spanish Point. That's all I remember, but I can get that for you.
Okay, cool. That's neither here nor there. We'll show you guys right now. We'll pull it up on the screen for you guys. So Spanish Point. It's property on Spanish Point. How did you find the deal?
My connector, Elise.
Elise, connector. What is a connector?
Somebody who's out there talking to people, who's just really good at building a good relationship and getting a closer in the same room with the seller or realtor, doesn't matter, just getting the deal on a conference call, a Zoom, in-person meeting, and literally does that. What it is, a connector. She connects people together.
Did Elise make money on this deal?
Yes.
She made money on this deal. She didn't close him.
Nope.
She brought you the deal.
Mm-hmm.
She set up the deal. Did she talk to the sellers for over 20 minutes?
Probably not. No, actually, no.
Did she? I'm trying to think of everything possible because I want to show people that, like, by just bringing the deal connecting, she connected you with a motivated seller, and she got compensated for bringing you the deal.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's rewind. How did Elise find this deal?
I believe she went door knocking. She was driving around, driving for dollars. She saw for sale sign, and she just went and door knocked. I don't think the sellers were there. So again, you know, the one more mentality, not giving up. She, I believe, knocked on the neighbor's house and asked them, you know, if they knew anything about the property, and they knew that they were selling it. So she was able to get the contact information from the neighbor, reached out to the seller.
Hold on. Before she reached out to the seller, what did she do?
In regard, like, what do you mean?
Wasn't there the sign?
Yeah.
Did she reach out to the agent first, or?
No, the sign actually didn't have the thing on it. So it was just like the stick.
Oh, so this was listed with an agent at one point. That's why I bring that up, because she saw that, but it was just the stick. So Elise, the connector, sees a house for sale, sees it's vacant or no one's home, goes to the neighbor's house, door knocks, asks if they're selling the property next door, asks for their information. How do you think she asked for the information?
I mean, she just asked him, hey, I noticed this house is for sale, or was it for sale? Do you guys know anything what's going on with the property? And they're like, yeah, well, we think they're moving. Oh, you don't happen to have your neighbor's number so I can reach out? Maybe I can help them out. Maybe I can buy it.
Boom. Neighbor.
Simple conversation.
Simple conversation. Neighbor gives her the number.
To my knowledge, yeah. When she brought me the deal, there was no agent involved. There wasn't an agent involved. So it was just talking directly to the seller at that point, finding out their goals and what was going on, why they're trying to sell most importantly, and then working backwards from there.
Okay, so you call the seller. She gets the phone number. You jump on the phone call with the seller. What's the first thing you start doing when you're talking to the seller?
Just build a relationship, talk to them about normal conversation, everyday life. I know that they are military, so I'm able to connect with them on that note, me being prior service as well. And that helps out. Also drop their guard down, because a lot of people who are in a distressed situation sometimes, have a bad experience with other investors, and I wanted to make it very clear that I'm not here to just buy their property. I wanted to make sure I find out exactly what's going on with their situation and see if I can even help them. So once I found out that the seller had 3 kids under the age of 5, the seller's in her mid-20s, you know, so she's young, her and her husband, and they had just moved back on base, and they're expecting twins. So now they're gonna have 5 kids, and they're no longer receiving BAH, basic allowance for housing. That's what it is. And so now they're having to pay out of pocket for a property that they don't even live in.
So you're on the phone. You built the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They have 3 kids. You identify they're having twins.
Mm-hmm.
How soon were they going to have those twins? Or
she was already full term. Like she had maybe 2-3 weeks left, which, you know, at that point in the pregnancy, the baby can come at any time, right? So she was very, very like, if you can help me, please help me. Of course, she had her questions in regard to how the process worked. But before we got into that, I was wanting to know why the house is vacant, why they moved, why they're trying to sell. And I feel like that's important to ask those questions just to know what their goals are. And that ended up being the situation. They moved back on base, so the house was vacant, and they were paying this mortgage. They're responsible to pay for it. And she mentioned that she had listed it on the market and it didn't sell. It was on the market for 3 months.
okay, so building the relationship, I think that's a big thing that a lot of people miss, because you genuinely cared for these people. You genuinely wanted to help out these people. And I say this all the time, that when somebody wants to sell, they have a problem. Now, these people had a major problem. And the reason why I say major is their house was already vacant for 3 months. They already had missed, at the time when you got it under contract, 2 payments. Why do you think they missed 2 payments?
I think it all comes down to the expectation and how the setup was done, right? And I mean, on top of, I don't know their personal finances, but if you're moving on base, it was for a reason, right? So now that there's no extra income coming in to pay this mortgage, they're at that point where it's like, well, I'm going to use the money for where I need it. You know, I'm not living in this property anymore. That's the only thing I could think of. But it's time was of the essence, and it was like, how do we move fast? And I started explaining all the pros on what I can bring, the value that we bring to the table, and how we can take care of them.
And how can we help them? I love that. I love that. So let's go back to, you're building this relationship with them. You're identifying their problems, understanding that there is a problem, and you have the solution. So now, when they first listed this house, because this house was on the market, but when the deal got brought to you, it was already expired, no longer on the market. There's no agent involved.
Correct.
Did Elise ever reach out to the agent when it was on the market? Or do you know if there was ever agent outreach?
There was. I asked Elise, I had asked also the seller, like, what happened? If it was on the market, did you have an agent? You had to have had an agent. She's like, we did, but the house just wasn't selling. We originally listed the price at $260, I believe. They ended up, of course, telling them to drop the price. And she said that towards the tail end of the contract, which was like the last month, she wasn't hearing back from the agent. She would reach out to the agent wouldn't respond, or it was just at that point where she felt like they had given up on her. So when I talked to Elise, I was like, did you reach out to the agent? She's like, I did. I reached out to them as well. I was able to get in contact with them. They did answer, but they didn't have any information for the questions that I had. And they were just simple questions, right? Like, do you know how much the seller owes on the house? Do you know why? But it was more like, oh, I don't know.
So do you think they didn't want to disclose that to protect their client's interests, or just because they didn't want to say? Why do you think the agent didn't want to answer those questions?
I think the setup was the main agent that was contacted. It wasn't the one that was actually handling everything. I think.
Okay, it was like a co-listing agent involved, and there was a listing agent. She was contacting.
Yeah. So that was like layers, like a management system where you have the main person and then you have an assistant that's helping.
And I want to break this down real quick. So when agents have a group, a real estate group, is typically the leader of that group is typically the listing agent. And the reason why they are the listing agent is because when that property sells or that property closes, those numbers get reported at the end of the year. So those agents that you see that call you or tell you they're number 1 in their city, they're top 10 in their city, it's because they're getting all the sales from all their team most of the time. Now, that's not to discredit the ones that grind by themselves and doing deals with no team and make it to the top 10. But for the majority of the part, the listing agent sometimes isn't the actual agent of the property. The agent that's listing the property is the co-listing agent. They're the ones that's their lead. And I know this because, again, when I first started, I started off as a real estate agent. When I was on a team, all my listings had to go under the leader's name. I was just a co-listing agent. So now everything would go under his name. He was getting all the sales. So that's probably what happened here.
Probably. I mean, it sounds like it when you paint that picture. It sounds.
So she calls the listing agent. He doesn't know information because it's a co-listing agent's
right
listing. However, so this agent's not helping. At any point, does she tell the agent that she could help?
Of course, yeah.
And then so hangs up the phone. From my understanding,
I'll get back to you. Was like, I'll get back to you, but nobody would ever get back. So
how many times did she follow up with the agent?
At least 3 or 4 times.
She followed up with 3 or 4 times. How many times did she actually get in contact with the agent?
Probably half.
And never had any answers. Never wanted to hear her out.
And you know what? Now that we bring that up, I think she went to the agent first.
Okay.
And that happened, and she felt like she wasn't getting anywhere. So then she door knocked the neighbor and was able to get in contact with the seller directly.
And at that point, when it was brought to you, when the deal was brought to you, the listing was already expired.
Yeah, it was already done.
So when you're talking to the sellers, you acknowledge and you ask if they have an agent. Why do you ask that?
I initially started to get into real estate thinking that I could do all this by myself. But now I'm realizing that it's not possible. You need to build relationships. So for me and all the agents out there, I want agents in my circle. I want them on my team. I want them to know that I can definitely structure a deal and make sure they get paid. So the reason why I ask is because it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity I've talked to multiple agents, a lot of them that aren't aware of how, or just aren't educated on how creative works, right? How we can structure deals, how it's just all about options. They're a lot more timid, a lot more scared because it's like foreign ground from maybe what they've heard or they just don't know. So for me, it's like, no, this is just another opportunity to explain how, hey, we can joint venture, we can team up, and there's a lot of deals out there that are just on the table that we can close together. So I always ask, even if it's expired, if it's current, if there's an existing agent, I want to work with that agent.
You want to work with the agent. I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of agents thinks is they think they're going to get cut out of the deal. But see, that's just another avenue of making money is direct to agent. That goes back to the avatar. You're direct to agent. And the reason why you asked if they had an agent because you wanted to respect that, because then now you want to keep the agent involved in the deal and you want to make sure they get paid and compensated so they know that you can close deals.
Exactly.
If they have a property they can't sell, if there's a house out there for sale that can't close, they can come to a 1%er knowing that they are going to close this deal.
All day.
Okay, so moving forward, you talk to the seller, you identify the problems, you see that they're distressed, you see that there's a problem. Let's talk about the deal. You had the property, the property was on the market. Again, when you got to the property, what was the sales price that they had it on the market at the time?
$225.
So let's go to our whiteboard. The price that they were trying to sell this property was $260.
Originally, yes.
Original. So I'm going to put right here. Original price, $260,000 is what they had this property listed for. And they ended up dropping it to final price. Final sale price was $225.
Right.
$225,000 is what the agent listed it for. It's typically, I always say that it's going to cost you 10% to sell a house on the market. And the reason why, in the market we're in today, in the market that we're in today, today's market is interest rates are all-time high. Houses are sitting on the market a lot longer. Buyers are coming in and asking sellers to pay for closing costs. New builders are paying for buyers' closing costs. And on top of that, a new builder. So if you have a house that's around a new subdivision where they're building, it is better for a client, a traditional buyer, to go buy a new build than it is to buy a resale, because they know the new builder is going to pay for closing costs. On top of that, they know the new builder is going to give incentives away. And on top of that, they know there's a potential chance that the new builder will buy down the interest rates for the buyer. And the reason why, let's talk about that real quick. The reason why a new builder will do that or is willing to do that is because they don't want to drop the sales price of their home. Because if they drop the sales price of their home, that now affects all the other inventory that they have. So instead of dropping the sales price of the home, they're giving it away in incentives, incentivizing a buyer to come buy one of their products. Same thing right now. Houses are sitting on the market. A lot of people can't afford because of interest rates. This is why new builders are doing that. So now, going back to a resale house, a buyer is going to ask a seller to pay for closing costs. So let's go back to the whiteboard real quick. So it's going to take 10% to sell a house. 10% closing costs typically. So right here, it's going to be 6% for commissions. 6% commissions. It's going to be 1% for seller closing costs. And then there's going to be that 3% for your buyer's closing costs. So that equals to 10% in closing costs. So at 225, it's going to cost them 225. It's going to cost them 10% to sell their home. After they've already dropped this price from 260 to 225, meaning they dropped this price over $35,000 already. The seller is losing $35,000 on this property from what the agent originally told them the property was worth. The seller has a problem. Now, to say that the agent was wrong for listing the house at 260, no, that's not what I'm saying. Now, maybe the property didn't sell for several reasons. What are some of those reasons that the house might have not sold?
Interest rates.
Interest rates. That's number one. I think that's the biggest thing. Is interest rates is probably why this house didn't sell. But this is why creative finance will dominate a market that we're in today. Because we're able to structure these deals. So going from 260 6 months ago, they drop it to 225, losing $35,000, 10%, which is going to cost them $25,000. So at the end of the day, if this property were to sell for 225 at your 10% expenses, the sellers were going to make $202,500. 202,500. So 202. I don't know if that's how you spell mortgage. Please don't judge me for my writing or my spelling. I was never in the spelling bee. So their mortgage, do you remember what it was? I do.
204.
205. They owe $205,000 to the bank. This note is at a 3.25% interest rate. So if they were to make 202,500 and they owe the bank 205, if they owe the bank 205, how much money were they going to make?
Negative.
They were going to have to pay to sell their house $2,500 pay out of pocket. This is what the seller was going to have to pay out of pocket. On top of that, they stopped paying the mortgage. 2 months behind. What is the payment on the mortgage?
$1,500.
$1,500 a month times 2 plus attorney fees. So let's call it, or late fees. Let's call it $3,500 in arrears. So 35 plus 2,500. This 2,500 is right here. This is what they're going to have to pay to sell their house. That puts us at $6,000. They were going to have to pay $6,000 to sell their home. Now, what do people always preach in the real estate world? Go buy a house. It's going to be the best investment ever. You want to build the equity. You want to build the appreciation. So when you sell, you're able to make the money. They own this house for a year or so, a little bit over a year. I'm not sure exact time frame. But they had to pay to sell their house Or what was another option that was going to happen?
They lose it.
Have a foreclosure. 5 kids, 2 kids on the way. Do you think these people had an issue? Do you think these people had a problem? 1,000%. So by you building this relationship, by you identifying this goal, what were we able to do and how were we able to create a win-win situation here?
So, leading with the building the relationship and getting their trust, I just told them it was very straightforward. I explained the 260, the drop. I had asked them all those questions and I was like, look, if you sell it traditionally, which didn't end up working out, this is what you would end up having to pay. Are you guys aware of that? Some people don't know. They don't know that's how it works. So they were tracking. They understood that they're just trying to get rid of it. They're trying to get the headache. They just want to get rid of the headache. And she's got a lot of other things that she's, thinking about with the baby and all that. So I told her, I was like, look, I can help you. I know I can help you. This is how I'm going to help you. I'm going to take over your mortgage. Okay. We can separate your mortgage, the debt, from the deed. And I'm going to take over the payments. You're not going to have to worry about that. You'll just have to carry the note temporarily until I'm able to come in, fix it up, and, refinance eventually or build enough equity where I can, either or, right? But until then, you have nothing to worry about. And I'll make sure that happens. I'll put it on contract. We open up escrow. We still go through a title company. And this is actually on your VA loan docs. This is an option that you can explore. You can go this route because the veterans aren't always going to be where they're at. They end up moving every 2 or 3 years. And this is a perfect way to, help you out. So she's like, okay, well, she had some questions. So how does that work? It was very simple, very, very simple. She was just more like, okay. She was like, okay. Later on, she asked me some questions, which I had the answers to, but we were able to do it. And honestly, our conversation might have lasted like maybe 15 minutes, that initial conversation. And it was just 10 minutes of building rapport, 5 minutes of giving her the solution, and she just wanted out. So I know that there was going to be a lot more follow-up questions and that I have the answers to when it comes to that. And a lot of people get worried with, oh, well, the note stays in my name, or what if the note gets called, all those things. And those are not hard obstacles, and it rarely happens. But when it does, we're prepared for that.
So let's jump over to the whiteboard. So this is kind of basically the way this works. So you tell her that we're going to purchase this property, taking over her mortgage. We call that subject to. We're going to subject to this note, meaning we're going to take on the ownership subject to this note in place. This is the house right here. Spanish point, house. This is the house. There is a note, which is the debt on the property. Then there is the deed, which is the ownership of this property. This deed was going to get transferred to your name. So we're going to put you right here. We're going to transfer this to your name, Bobby. And this is going to stay under the seller's name. Why was it going to stay under the seller's name?
For the interest rate, so that we can purchase the property, keeping the interest rate and not having to take out a loan through the current rates.
Why would you want to keep somebody's interest rate?
Why would I want to take a new loan out at an 8.5 is the question.
So this is why we purchase property through subject to, and this is why this is one of the most amazing options out there, is we are buying their cost of money. Their cost of money is at a 3.25% interest rate. When will we see that same interest?
Nobody knows.
We don't know. We don't know that. So for us, we're able to create opportunity for the seller, to create an opportunity for ourselves, or for Bobby in this point, to build a win-win situation. So now we're taking on this property subject to the current mortgage at a 3.25% interest rate, meaning the deed is going to get transferred. Let's jump over to the whiteboard. The deed is going to get transferred to Bobby's name. This right here, ownership's going to go to Bobby's name, and we're going to keep the note in the seller's name, and we're going to continue to make payments. Bobby's going to continue to make payments to the same mortgage every single month. He's going to pay every single month. So now Bobby takes it on, identifies the sellers behind 2 months at the time. How did that conversation go, and how do you feel you were able to create this win-win situation? The seller couldn't sell the property, and this goes for a lot of sellers out there. This goes for a lot of agents out there that can't move properties. This goes for a lot of anybody and everybody. Somebody, maybe just somebody that wants to learn about real estate investing. This is one of the best strategies out there. This is what we call subject to financing. Creative finance is the everything in between. Subject to is just one strategy of many that we use in our everyday business to go out there and buy real estate. This is how we're going to build a $1 billion real estate portfolio. We will build a $1 billion real estate portfolio through creative finance. Now, going back to this is 3.25% interest rate. I'm going to write that right here. 3.25% interest rate. Sellers behind. Bobby, so you tell the seller this. How does the seller feel at this point?
She feels somewhat relieved, but she's still a little skeptical because she feels like it's too good to be true.
Let's talk about the seller's favorite line. I was going to say, let's talk about the too good to be true.
She asked me, like, just straightforward. She's like, well, what do you get out of it? What do you get out of it? I was like, what do you mean, what do I get out of it? She's like, yeah, like, is this something that can actually be done? Has it been done before? I'm like, it's been done for hundreds of years. It's not a secret. It's just what we don't know yet. Nobody shows you this growing up. I mean, they don't show you this in the schools. And if you're not fortunate enough for your parents to know about it, then you're not going to learn it. But it's just information. It's all it is. It's always been done. So I'll tell you what I get out of it. For me, I'm a buy and hold investor. Okay, this is what I plan on doing, and I'm very straightforward with everybody I talk to. I tell them, this isn't a get-rich-quick type of thing. It's not even about that. For one, what are you going to do if I'm not going to be able to help you? What's your option? She doesn't have one. So that, to me, is more of a reason to just move on this, but what I get is, yes, we can take advantage of the 3.25 interest rate, but that's not going to make us a lot of money on the front end. That's going to take time. We still got to go in there. We got to make any kind of minor repairs. This is more of a 5 to 7 to 10 year, long game plan. And that's when the equity builds up, and then we can pull from that equity and we can reinvest into more real estate depending on what your goals are. But that's what I get out of it.
So why would you want to pull your equity from a house?
Because it's tax-free.
Tax-free. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. That's what he talks about in that book. If you haven't read that book, if you're just starting out, if you're somebody that wants to learn about money, if you're somebody that wants to learn about getting that, I recommend that book. I mean, that's a starting book. But anyways, you want to refinance to leverage your money because that money's tax-free. That money's tax-free. So you're looking at this. You're telling this to the seller. What do you gain? You get long run. You're buy and hold.
It's perspective. I get a lot from it. I get a lot. I get to help her out, right? I mean, I can relate to her in so many different ways. I have family here that live on base. I understand the comfort, the peace of mind of feeling secure when you're on base and not having to worry about being out in the civilian world. And she didn't say it right away, but towards the very end, when I was still identifying goals, she told me, you know what, I don't have the money for December's payment. And I was like, don't worry about it. She's like, you're going to make that payment? I was like, I'll make sure we take care of it. Because remember, we're going to close on this property within 2 to 3 weeks. We don't do an inspection. We don't get an appraisal because that takes time. We don't go through the bank. We try to avoid the bank as much as possible. And we get the job done. And she's like, okay.
Let's grow, baby. So now we move forward. You tell her, okay, and keep in mind, did you ever door knock this?
Me? No.
Did you ever cold call this?
No.
This deal was brought to you by another student in the community. This is the power of community. This is the power of showing up. This is the power of surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, because you too, whether you're a seller, whether you're a buyer, whether you're an investor, whether you're a real estate agent, whether you're a wholesaler, whether you're just getting started, whether you just came across this video on YouTube and just looking to see what we do, whether you just saw his pretty face and you want to see what is this guy doing, you can do this too. You don't need a cold call. You don't need a door knock. Maybe you become, because I'm going to show you how many people are making money on this deal. So fast forward, you get the deal under contract. You send her the contract. We're purchasing this property subject to the existing mortgage. You're behind 3 payments. You don't need to worry about that. 2 payments. Third payment, you don't need to worry about that.
Not me.
So now you're locking this property up. You send her the contract.
Right.
Contract says you're purchasing this property subject to the existing mortgage. You're going to take care of closing costs because we're still going through a title company. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you're purchasing this property subject to, you're going to take on title to your name. You get it under contract. However, for yourself, this is something that I like to buy. I like to buy properties under 4% interest rate. So, and I think you already had disclosed this to the seller. There's a chance that I might not keep it. I might sell this to another investor. You brought me this deal. How much money was made on this deal?
This deal specifically for me and my partner?
For both you guys, yeah.
$12,000.
You guys got paid $12,000 to bring this deal to me. So you got it under your name. Then you assigned the contract to me for an assignment fee of $12,000. So now I'm going to break down this deal all the way down to the bottom of this. So now my entry fee, let's go back to the whiteboard real quick. So I'm going to pay you guys $12,000, or I paid you. When did we close on this deal?
It was like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago we closed on this deal. So $12,000 assignment. Then there's $5,000 arrears. And then there was closing costs, which were $2,000 because we still went through a title company closing. I'm going to put right here in parentheses, title. So this is what it was going to cost me to buy this deal up front. This is just give or take. There's other fees at holding costs, marketing costs, and all that other good stuff that's not accounted for right here. But I'm going to break down this math. So that's $12,000, $14,000. This is $19,000 that it cost me to get into this deal. $19,000 is my entry fee. And I know I always preach this. Buying houses, 0 credit, 0 credentials, and 0 cash out of pocket. But Chris, you're paying $19,000 to buy this deal.
Are you?
But am I? So 0 credit, 0 credentials. What was your credit score?
Didn't matter.
Didn't matter. What kind of credentials did the seller ask you for?
None.
So for myself, what credit did you check my credit?
No.
Did you check my credentials?
Nope.
So all you wanted was $12,000 out of this deal to get paid to do this deal.
Yeah, the check was real. The money's real.
The money's real.
Well, I'm just saying because a lot of people, they'll question like, well, you're coming in with $19,000, but you're not using your own money. But how are you able to pay me with that?
So let's jump into that. So it's going to cost me $19,000. So we sit ourselves and we ask ourselves, and I think this is going back to a lack of education for a lot of people, and typically, especially for our culture, is we're taught, save our money. Save your money. Mijo, put your money underneath the mattress. Save your money. Start a savings account and put it in there. Savings account and put your money in there. The reality of this is big banks, Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they pay 0.01% interest on your money. So if you have $1,000 in there, every year they're paying you 0.01%. That's $1. However, they are charging you every single month for servicing fees. I know Chase charges about $15. So you are losing money every single month. But what are they doing with your money? They are taking your money and they're lending it out to people. They're lending it out to people to go buy a house, 8.5% interest. They're lending it out to people to go buy a car, 15% interest. They are lending it out on credit cards, 29.99% interest for you to take a fucking vacation, for you to go out of town, for you to go buy Gucci, for you to go buy Louis, for you to go buy propaganda, for you to go buy this fake reality. So again, lack of education. If you have saved money, you should either go be buying real estate or you should be investing into other people's deals. This $19,000 I got from my private money lender. My private money lender invested $20,000 into this deal. So they invested $20,000 into this deal. And now I am paying interest on to my private money lender, my PM. We go back to our to right here, this entry fee. Now my private money lender is giving me the money to pay Bobby, to pay the closing costs, to pay everything that I need to get into this deal. Well, Chris, why are you asking for 20 if you just need 19? Well, I got paid to buy this deal. So now let's go back to, well, Chris, how are you going to pay back the debt? Well, let's go back. So our payment to the seller, or I'm sorry, not to the seller, our PITI on this deal is $1,500. This is at a 3.25%.
The mortgage.
And then let's just say our payment to our private money investor is $200. That's $1,700 a month for expenses. Now, keep in mind, property management, maintenance, and all that other good stuff, you still need to account for that. But $1,700 is what this deal is going to cost me every single month. Do I plan on paying for that?
Nope.
So what I'm going to do is I turned around and I'm renting this property for $2,500. And it's costing me $1,700. 17, 18, 19, 20. That means I am going to make $800 every single month. Cash flow, baby. And on top of that, I am still going to take the appreciation over time. As we know, real estate is going to continue to go up. Chris, what if the market crashes? Be careful with the market crash. The market crash is coming. I am into this deal with $0 out of pocket. I am going to continue to cash flow. Rents are not going down. I'm going to continue to cash flow. Well, Chris, what about your private money lender? When does your private money get his money back? Well, my private money lender gets his money back when I refinance the deal. So when the property goes up in value, I'm going to refinance that property, paying back my private money their $20,000 return for whatever is left, depending however that was structured. They're going to get their money back. I'm going to take whatever's on top. Bobby got paid on the deal. His partner got paid on the deal. The sellers are happy. My private money lender is not watching their money burn. Title company got paid on the deal. Our escrow agent got paid on the deal. Our escrowing company's getting paid. Our insurance company's getting paid. The bank is getting paid. And we're taking an appreciating asset that's cash flowing every single month and have debt at a 3.25% interest rate, subject to for the win. And at this point, keep in mind also this. Well, Chris, what if the market never recovers? It comes back down. What about your private money lender? Well, for me, most of the time, our private money lenders are getting paid before I even refinance. And the reason why my business, I'm doing so many deals where I want to make sure I pay them back their money as soon as possible, because guess what? They're going to want to give that back to me. I give them back their money, they give it back to me. I give them the money, they give it back to me, and we continue to do more deals. And if you're out there trying to do deals with your own money, you're only going to be able to scale so far. Well, Chris, if you make so much money, why do you need other people's money? Well, because you're only going to be able to go so far. You're only going to be able to do so many deals every single year, every single month. I'm building a $1 billion real estate portfolio. I will do that in the next 6 years. And I have it worked out every single year and how much real estate I need to be buying. But that's why you got to set your targets and then you got to work backwards. Set your targets and you got to work backwards and learn how to structure deals. But most importantly, learn how to build relationships and realize that you don't need to be the person cold calling. You don't need to be the person door knocking. You don't need to be the person buying the deal. You don't need to be the person closing on the deal. You can be the private money investor. You can be the real estate agent. You can be the wholesaler. You can be the person that's the closer. You could be our transaction coordinator, got paid on the deal. You could be the TC. There's so much opportunity. You have to understand that. Real estate is just the vehicle that's going to allow you to go out there and do more. And this is why when somebody asks, why would somebody sell on subject to? It's not just because they're distressed. But it's because we have a solution to maximize their dollar. And I will say this here, and I will always say this, that I am committed, I am confident enough to tell a seller, they will make more money selling it to me, one of my students, or somebody on my team, than they will selling it traditionally. Because we know how to maximize your dollar as a seller, and we know how to create win-win situations. How many deals did we close that day?
2.
We closed 2. How did we purchase the other property?
Same way.
Subject to, did the people have a problem?
Yeah.
How long ago did they buy their house?
March of this year.
So they bought it, we're in December, they bought it, what, 9 months ago?
9 months ago, 0 equity.
0 equity. They bought their property 9 months ago. Again, if they go sell it on the market, it's going to cost them 10%.
They'd be upside down.
Upside down, negative, massive. And on top of that, they had a security loan and something else, correct?
Yeah, there was a lot of debt. There was a security system, $5,000. There was a $15,000 water filtration system. And, I mean,
Who bought that deal?
You did.
Did you get paid to bring me that deal?
I did.
Did the seller walk away happy?
Yes.
To a certain extent, but yes, they did. And this goes back to understanding that solutions are right in front of you. It's just a lack of education. Anything else that you would like to share specifically about this deal on Spanish Point?
I think for people who are listening, for people who are like contemplating where to start, how to start, or, you know, identifying their avatar. For me, I started off by talking about that I'm very straightforward with the sellers. I don't like
honesty.
Yeah, I just like to be just very transparent. And I do, you as a mentor and now a business partner, I see how you focus on buy and hold. You're not opposed to flips. You're not opposed to cash deals. You're not opposed to, you know, just everything under the creative umbrella. That's what it really is. We're open to everything. We focus on buy and hold because of the fact that it's an appreciating asset and you can maximize that by waiting. A lot of people don't know how to wait. They don't want to wait. They want that instant gratification. So I feed off of that as well. But right now I'm focused on assigning. When the right deal presents itself for me to keep it, I will. So that's exactly what I tell the sellers. And it's never a secret. It's just, you know, what it is. So in this case, I was very clear about that. I might keep it. I might assign it. I'm still, you know, inside my head, I'm still learning a lot about this, and I need to see how the numbers are going to make sense for me. So it made sense to assign it, and I know that, you know, my 2024 goals are big. They're a lot bigger than I ever anticipated them to be, but from the dream, the American dream of owning one house, now it's up to 2030, 2024 for starters. So
what would you tell a seller that's watching this?
Ask questions, reach out. Don't hesitate to take action yourself, because clearly you're not the only one, because it's more for the people that are trying to sell. People who are trying to sell have a problem, and they're so worried about what other people are going to think. At the end of the day, there's a deadline, right? And time's not going to wait for you. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us or to anybody that you know that's in this circle, right? We're here to help. And even if it means keeping the property, right? Or if it means, you know, we just have to identify your goals. But that's the message I would have to any kind of seller out there that is trying to get rid of their property. I would encourage you to keep it, make it a rental, you know, get educated on how all of this works so you don't have to be in the situation you're in. The only reason why you're in that situation is because you just lack that information, and it's not your fault. So, I mean, we've all gone through it, and now I just feel like, you know, I'm continuing to learn more and more and more, and I'm enjoying the process, but I'm excited about it.
What would you tell an agent that's watching this video?
It's options. It's options. That's all it is. An agent actually has an upper hand by being able to explore the traditional route, right? Something that you've always done that has worked. And it is like a roller coaster, right? Depending on the market. Right now, you know, every agent's different. There's some agents that are still thriving, but they've seen the slowdown. But there's some that are like, man, I haven't sold anything in months. They're struggling. It doesn't hurt to have another option. That's all it is. If we're truly looking out for the best interest of the seller, then any kind of doubt that you might have, whether if it's, oh, is this legal? Is this right? Is this wrong? ask, reach out to me, reach out to anybody, and just be like, okay, explain to me. I have questions. I've heard this, I've heard that. I've heard about all of these things that could go wrong. How can we prevent that from happening, or how are we going to protect ourselves? That's it.
What would you say to somebody that wants to start learning and get into the room of creative finance?
TTP. Just start talking to people, right? Get up, get out, take action, come out here with us. I'm always open to, having lunch, having a conversation with anybody. Cause I was in those shoes almost 4 months ago. And again, I'm still learning a lot, but I know that I've scaled so much. I keep having these aha moments. That's what we call them, where, it's the same thing that's being repeated. It's the same message, the same terminology, but it's a lot. It's a lot to take in, especially when you're not used to it. And it's really a mindset shift, right? You're shifting how you see everything. You're now operating on a complete different frequency where it's hard to even have a conversation with people that you've known your whole life. But that's okay. That's perfectly fine. So if you really want to get started in real estate investing, that's what it really is. It's not like a transactional thing where it's a paycheck at a time. It's way bigger than that. It's bigger than us here. It's so much bigger than that. It's more about preparing yourself for the future and learning how to fold your time in half. And that's why I'm into it, so that I can learn how to I'm 35. 2-3 years down the road, even now, my schedule, I dictate it. I don't have to be here. I choose to be here. But when it's time to, spend some quality time with the family, then it's time to do that.
So make sure you join our free Zoom calls every single Monday through Friday at 8:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's an opportunity for you to learn how to go out there and talk to sellers, how to have these conversations, how to identify goals, how to build relationships, and how to do more deals. We also have a free Facebook community, 1% Better Every Day with Chris Silva. And then on our YouTube channels and our social medias, I will put Bobby's social media as well too. Don't hesitate to reach out, text, DM. At the end of the day, it's all right in front of you. It's up to you to start doing more deals. Let's grow, baby.